All right, I'm here with Luke Kanies, founder and CEO of Puppet. How you doing, Luke?
Good, how are you?
Doing very well. So, tell us a little bit about what is Puppet and how does it play in the cloud space?
So I'm the founder of Reductive Labs. We're the people who behind Puppet, and so Puppet plays very well in the cloud space. One of the interesting things about the cloud is the cloud is really about reducing the friction of bringing up many numbers of instances of operating system instances. And one of the things you find, so if in 5-10 years ago, if your boss were to come to you and say, I need 100 new servers or 1,000 new servers, it wasn't unreasonable for it to take 6 months to do that, because it would take 4 or 5 months for all those machines to show up, and then it'd take you a couple of months to configure all those machines. Today, your boss asks for 100 new servers or 1,000. You can turn them all on with the click of a button. And if it still takes you 2-3 months to configure those new servers, then you're the rate limiting step. You're the reason why everything is going so slow. So with Puppet, you can actually configure Puppet so that it can build and configure those systems almost as quickly as you can turn them on. It might take 2 minutes for it to start up, and then in another 10 minutes, Puppet will have that server configured entirely. We had Paul Lathrop from dig.com tweeted recently that he built 40 new systems in 2 hours with Puppet and was completely a spectator. It took no time on his part. He was surfing the web and watching the systems come up, and he said 6 months ago that would have taken 2 days, and it would have been 16 hours at work. He would have had to work the whole time, and it would have taken 8 times as long. So this is a case where we scale really well, and we scale once you've got the configurations built into Puppet. Adding new machines to do those configurations is effectively free. So that's how it works well in the cloud.
And so it's a it's a GUI-based system, I'm assuming. And is it is it open source to start with, or how did it come about? What's it written
So
in?
Puppet it's written entirely in Ruby. It's all open source. We have no commercial products at all right now. At some point we expect to add some commercial features, but today it doesn't. It also has no GUI features today. It's actually entirely
Command line?
It's not so much command line because the whole thing is code. So we have our own configuration language. It's a very simple language that it's kind of a strange amalgamation of Nagios and Perl and Ruby configuration languages. It's declarative. It's very simple. And what you do is Puppet will compile that language down to whatever the configuration you need for your individual hosts. And it's command line in the sense that we've got daemons and clients and CLI tools that you use to interact with that language, but mostly it's about writing that language. It's a language which you program your infrastructure, and then Puppet runs that program across your whole infrastructure.
So how big is the community right now?
We have about, I think it's 1,200, maybe 1,400 people in our user list. We have 200 plus people in our IRC channel all day, every day, all around the world. And yeah, so I think I said this on a panel earlier. I think we have the largest systems-focused IRC channel out there right now. So I think that's very good, especially since the sysadmins don't really get together that much. So I think it's a place where people will actually post all the time, off topic, but how do I fix this? I'm having a backup problem. I'm having an issue with this monitoring tool. And so there's definitely a lot of communication even outside of Puppet in our community.
So how do you handle commits and patches, and how do they get accepted? What's the process there?
So we've tried to follow the Linux model as much as possible. We don't have commit access. We don't give anybody. We've only got maybe 2 people who can directly commit to the repository, but we've got more than 50 contributors. And the way that works is everyone who contributes code sends their code to the developer list. We have a separate developer list that's got maybe only 400 or 500 people on it. So they send their code to the developer list, and it goes through a code review process. And once that code has been reviewed and accepted by 1 or 2 of the kind of core developers, then the person who does release management for us merges that into the repository. So it's very easy to get code in, but there are standards you have to follow. There are formatting rules, but also you have to have tests, and you have to kind of be willing to meet the standards of what code looks like. And yeah, so and this is how the Linux world works. It's how Git works. It's how a lot of the large scale open source applications work.
And so you recently got big news, some funding. So
Yes.
who did you get it from? How much was it? And what you going to do with all that money?
We closed $2 million in funding with True Ventures, which was based in, they have a Palo Alto office, and also Boston, I guess, but we're with people in San Francisco. And we're going to mostly focus on engineering. We're also going to spend some time on sales and marketing, as everyone has to. But we're going to start building some of those GUI tools. We know that while we think writing code in GUIs is a bad idea, some things really make sense. Having lists of data, having reports, having graphs, having correlation between events and the configurations that generated those events, all these things make sense in a GUI. So we're starting to build some of those tools, and then that's kind of our main focus with that money. And in 6 months or so, we should have made progress on that, and then it's kind of expanding out from there, basically.
And who are some of the customers that are using Puppet today?
So customers are Red Hat, Sun Microsystems. Let's see, Rackspace is a customer of ours. For some reason I'm blanking the customer list, but
Message One, you were saying, which
Message
is
One
now
is a
Dell.
customer of ours. Yes, I don't know if we're allowed to say that, but you know, you said it, not me. Yes, we've got about we've got quite a few customers, and we got a lot of high visibility users. Like Google is a very visible user of Puppet. They are managing their entire corporate infrastructure with Puppet, so they especially do interesting things. They manage all their Macintosh laptops and desktops and servers with Puppet. So they have laptops that, if you see a Googler who's got a Mac laptop, that laptop's running Puppet.
Very cool.
And you know it's running Puppet because they've set it up so that if it doesn't check in every 24 hours, then it shuts off their access to the network, so automatically.
Now, is there any fear of forks? And I don't know if it's a fear, but are there any people that Google would take it and make it all their own and do their own stuff like they might?
Not as much, partially because this is their corporate infrastructure instead of their customer-facing infrastructure, where they're a little less likely to be quite so far from left field. And we actually, in the last six to 12 months, they've gotten much more contributory. They've begun maintaining the OS 10 side of Puppet, so that they become our platform advocate on that side. And so far, they've been great. They've been very, very visible, very involved, and have really contributed. And I don't have any concern at all about a fork.
Excellent. Well, Luke, thank you so much for taking the time. I look forward to watching you all's progress as you go along.
Great. Thank you very much, Bart.